Christian Nicolucci, welcome back. Game 3 decider. I'm more impressed with the fact that we're still going after 2 Origin matches, but the fans, they're listening. They're still listening.
Still listening. You look very tired. You've been complaining about how tired you are. You've got a headache.
Well,
you keep getting headaches.
I have to keep carrying you on my shoulders. You don't do much work.
What's with the headache? You're too young to be getting headaches.
I've got to have some more water in my life.
Have some water.
Yeah.
Stay hydrated.
I'm fit and firing. Speaking of fit and firing, the Blues.
Yes.
There's a few injury concerns there.
They're firing. Hopefully they're firing. I don't know if they're necessarily fit.
You were out there today.
I was out there today. Jerome Luai, of course, missed the West Tigers game on Friday night to Manly. Ended up spending 3 nights at Westmead Private Hospital with that infection that he had. He got a staph infection. I'd never heard of staph infections or boils until I started covering the NRL. Have you ever had a boil?
No, I can't confirm that I've ever had a boil. Not that I know of, anyway.
No. I used to get ingrown hairs, but they'll never boils.
Yeah, you would. I've seen your chest.
Hey, come on. We're European.
Look, just do that button up. Do the top button up, and then we don't have to
I'm Italian.
see.
It's par for the course.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
He ended up spending 3 nights in hospital, of course, being treated with that infection. Of course, he got the intravenous drip, had to get his fluids up. Came out Sunday morning. The first stop this morning, he started to go via the Tigers, checked in with the team, make sure they weren't licking their wounds too badly after the loss. And, of course, made his way to Homebush, where he's going to be fighting fit next Wednesday. We'll enjoy the full week of training with Nathan.
Where is this boil? What part of the body?
He just kept pointing to his left chest. Now, I don't know whether it's the armpit. He circled this area. I don't know if it's going to come through on a podcast, but I'm trying to describe right now.
That's like a nipple area.
Just the breast area.
Okay.
But he doesn't have to wear a guard.
Infected breast.
He's going to be completely fine. He'll be out there running. In fact, he had a little light session today after he left Concord, made his short way up the M4, where I'm pretty sure you can avoid the tolls before you get off the Sydney Olympic Park exit. But he did a quick gym session, light run. He's going to be very good to go. But his little mate, don't cut me off, Brian To'o.
I was just going to say, breaking news.
He was
Jerome
the bigger
Luai.
concern. He was the bigger concern, wasn't he? Mastitis, yes. Actually, getting off topic, I watched the documentary on Sunday about pets.
Yeah.
Where there was a female dog, took in a stray cat.
Here.
A cat, which was a kitten.
Yeah.
I'm not a cat fan, by the way. Anyway, to all the cat lovers out there, I'm sorry. But cat nestled up to the dog, and after 2 days, the female dog started producing milk for the cat to consume.
And after giving this podcast a compliment at the start, and we had some listeners, now we've lost them all because you've just become...
Brian To'o into the fair income department. Brian To'o is the bigger concern. Of course, he injured his knee in that game of the season on Thursday night with Penrith and Canterbury. Copped a knock to his knee. I've since found out today he had scans on Sunday, but he suffered what's the equivalent of a grade 2 lateral tear to his lateral ligament, tear to his lateral ligament. The long and the short of it is he's going to be fine to play. They do have Jacob Kiraz there as 18th man. They've deliberately gone with Jacob Kiraz as 18th man because of the concerns about Brian To'o. They had Matt Burton there the first 2 games, of course, as cover for the halves if anything went amiss. But with Brian, they're hoping he can be up and running by Saturday. He'll have a light run come Thursday. But he essentially went into that Perth game with no training whatsoever. So you can only assume he's in good hands and he's a tough bugger, the good old little bizzer.
Mate, for a guy, I'm very impressed. You gave us a history lesson on Origin.
I'm surprised do you know what mastitis is?
Yeah, I know what mastitis is.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. I haven't suffered it myself, but
I couldn't spell it, but that's a very cool word.
No. My wife went through it, unfortunately, when the kids were younger. But anyway, I don't think people want to hear about our breastfeeding stories from our wives. So I know that the Blues' talking points are the injuries, but the selection is the talking point out of Queensland. The non-selection of Reece Walsh, picked as 18th man, not as fullback, and then the selection of Gimmet Shibasaki from the Broncos.
Yeah.
To me, I'm glad, as a New South Welshman, I'm glad it's not Reece Walsh at fullback.
Yeah.
I know Billy's philosophy is pick the safer options. Guys who are may not necessarily win you the game, but they're not going to lose you the game either. And I think that's the reason behind the Reece Walsh non-selection. Hamaso's there, real supportive player through the middle. And then Shibasaki, train and trial deal, turns into an Origin player. It's quite a remarkable story. Do you think it's one that we're going to look back at and think Queensland got that horribly wrong? Or do you think this is where Queensland, another Billy Slater masterstroke?
As New South Wales fans, I'm with you. I'm so glad Reece Walsh isn't there at fullback. He would have been the bigger threat. Hamaso's a brilliant player. He's been doing such a wonderful job for the Dolphins at fullback, but you just don't weaken one position to strengthen another. This is exactly what Billy's done here. Hamiso, I think, was great on the right wing. I think he played in the centres. Forgive me if I'm wrong in game one. But why remove him from the back line when you've got a ready-made fullback who's a big game player? Yes, Reece Walsh has been carrying a bit of a knee injury, but he's so explosive. He's so dangerous. He's good for an error, but he's good for appearing on the highlights reel 3 or 4 times every single week.
And the other selection for Queensland, Josh Papali'i, back in the fold after representative retirement for a couple of years. He's been fantastic in his final season for the Raiders. How good is it? It's one of those Queensland, we're going to pick someone who's going to inspire the team. Let's do it for Big Papa. And you know what? He does strike a bit of fear into me as a New South Welshman. And if you're a New South Wales forward, you're thinking, okay, we've got to be on our game here. Big Papa's coming for us. I think it's a great selection.
I'm more worried about Josh Papali'i. I mean, Reece Walsh would have been fantastic at the back and would have had us concerned. Thankfully, he's not going to be there. But Josh Papali'i, love him. He's got experience. He's a big game player. He's got size. He just loves it. I walked into the pub after the Manly Tigers game and caught the last 5 minutes of the Canberra-Newcastle game on the big screen. It was on mute, but all I saw was Josh smiling, getting into the faces of the Newcastle players. We all know he's going to be signing with St Helens next year. He's leaving Canberra. He's in the form where you almost make a case for keeping him in the nation's capital. But to be brought back in from the cold, his final Origin game, I love Papa. I'd love to see him win, but as a Blues fan, I hope it doesn't work out that way.
Yeah. I think for me, Queensland's team, if you said at the start of the series that would be their team, you would have laughed at them, to be honest with you. Hamiso fullback, Toya in the centres with Shibasaki, Tom Dearden at halfback, Munster captain. If you're going through it, there's Liero at lock, Kurt Mann on the bench. To me, you would have laughed. Honestly, you would have laughed at it.
That's
fair.
centre pairing right there, Rob Toya and Gemmet Shibasaki.
You'd be lucky to start an NRL club at the start of the season with that centre pairing.
But he's been rewarded for his good form. He's playing well for the Broncos. He's a big dude. I remember spotting him in the flesh. Might have been at Magic Round.
Good goatee game too.
He's got a great surname. I was just thinking about it, Shibasaki. I just love saying it.
Yeah.
It's better than Mastitis, Shibasaki. It's got a nice ring to it. And you could just see the callers just calling Shibasakis into space. Shibasaki.
Mate.
But he's a big dude, but you're right. If you could have held a gun to my head and named 2 centres, Rob Toya and Shibasaki would have been the last 2 I would have come up with.
But even in the lead up to the games that they were selected, Rob Toya was picked game 1, Shibasaki game 3.
Yeah.
Even leading into game 1, I wouldn't have had Rob Toya on my list of players they could potentially be looking at, let alone picking. And even game 3, we all knew that Kalyn Ponga was out, and no one was talking about Shibasaki coming into the team. No one thought the way they would reshuffle their team would allow for Shibasaki to be in the side. We thought maybe Taulagi comes back in. But you know what? I'm not worried about the selection, but I admire Billy Slater for the courage he shows. And he's one of the greatest fullbacks of our game. You're not going to question Billy Slater's decision to pick a certain fullback. He obviously knows what he wants out of his number 1. So Hamiso does that. But he showed in game 2 that he's willing to make the tough decisions. Got rid of Cherry Evans, brought in Tom Dearden. Tom Dearden was really good for the Maroons in game 2. He started carrying on the bench. It worked out well for him, and Nanai as well. Everything he's done after that game 1 loss has been, you'd have to argue, has been justified. So you'd be a brave man to turn around and say that Billy Slater's got this horribly wrong.
Can I just say, Michael, I'm doing my best not to say yep as you're talking.
Yeah, I know.
Because I'm concentrating so hard on not saying yep, I'm actually losing full concentration on what you've just said to me. Because all my energy has gone into staying quiet.
Because you can't do 2 things at once.
But I believe
You're
you.
an
I
idiot.
tell you what, you talk about Billy's selections. Even had Kalyn Ponga not gone down Friday night, I could have made a case for dropping him to the bench, and I would have played Reece Walsh. Why are you doing that? That's going to come across awfully on the podcast. Don't you learn? You should know these things.
Sorry, I was just
trying to... You do 27 of them a week. You should know this thing by now.
I was trying to zone out because you were zoning out of my
Would you have played Reece Walsh at fullback and KP
100%.
on the bench had he been fit?
Oh, no, I wouldn't have. No, I wouldn't have changed the winning team. No. But if at the start of the series, if both were fit and both were playing well, you'd have them both in your team.
We speak about Reece Walsh and we spoke about this off air. Is that what we say? Off air?
Off air,
before
yeah,
we
you
started
go to that.
recording.
Yeah.
Reece Walsh, 18th man. Jacob Kiraz, 18th man. Canterbury, Brisbane play Friday night. I know Gus Gould brought this up as a bit of a hot topic, the 18th man, whether or not they should be selected from teams not involved in club action that weekend. Canterbury, Brisbane on Friday night, that's got some huge repercussions. Brisbane are on a bit of a roll. They've won 3 on the trot. They can win this. They go into the bye round. With the Warriors now, with their injuries they've got, that fourth spot's up for grabs. Brisbane would have loved having a full-strength team. They would have loved having Reece Walsh there.
Yeah.
But, of course, he's now going to be unavailable. Likewise, Canterbury, I can't imagine they're doing hula hoops, losing Kiraz when they've already lost Kurt Mann, you mentioned, Maxi King, Stephen Crichton. I don't know. Is it time? Next year, it's a rule we definitely have to look at. If we're going to pick the 18th man, they can't be involved with club action that weekend. They have to be selected from a team that have got the bye.
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I wrote a piece about this in the after game 2 when Matt Burton missed the South Sydney game for the Bulldogs because of it. It's ridiculous that we are saying that the 18th man can't play and then back up in Origin on a 5% chance. If you go through the Origin games, there's been 11 Origin games since the 18th man was introduced, Nico. So that's 22 teams have taken the field. Once only, when Reece Walsh was knocked out by Joseph Suaalii last year in the opening game of the series, 18th man was activated. I think it was Felice Kafusi. That's 1 in 22 teams has used the 18th man. So on the odd chance that you're going to use it, we're saying they can't go and play for their club, who pay them so much money to be part of their team. We're not going to do it. And what they justify because the turnaround, they say, oh, hang on a second, we can't have Jacob Kiraz playing Friday night against Brisbane, or we can't have Reece Walsh playing against the Bulldogs on Friday night, and then backing up later for a less than 5% chance of playing Origin. But they're happy for the Panthers to play on a Wednesday night, then travel to Auckland for 6-7 hours and play 3 days later on a Saturday and back up. Or someone like Jerome Luai played on Friday night 2 days later. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yep. I get it. I get it for New South Wales and New Queensland that you have the right. It's within the rules that you've got to pick the best players available.
Yeah, I've got no issue with
Laurie, like we said, Brian Tottle's got this knee injury. He's going to be fine to play. If something went amiss during the week, he's got the comfort there knowing that Jacob Kiraz is there waiting in the wings.
And also, you know what?
You don't want him playing Friday night. He's got a big game. He's got a decider to play, to prepare for. You can't have Jacob Kiraz. You can't take the risk of him playing Friday night. So he's 18th man, and guess what?
Bad luck, Nico.
Jacob Kiraz is also getting $30,000 next week to probably just warm the bench. I'm not saying it's right. It is a rule. We both agree.
Yeah.
Next year they have to look at the rule and change it.
No, but if the 18th man was guaranteed to play, like Matt Burton was going to play, like it was named 18th man, if he was guaranteed to play, then I can understand that. But he was named 18th man earlier in the week, and you know what happened? Mitchell Moses went down. And what did? They brought Jerome Luai in. So he's 18th man, and they didn't even use him in the lead-up. It's only 18th man on game night because he covers so many positions. Kaloa Matangi was 19. They could have left him. He went and played for South Sydney. Why is it any different?
The
they should all be able to play.
Man can play,
and you pick your 18th man after the round. So New South Wales should have been picking their 18th man after this week's games. This week coming, then you pick your 18th man. It's ridiculous. And Tom Trbojevic he was put in that situation in game 1. They asked him to be 18th man. You know what he said? I'd rather play for Manly.
Well,
and that's not the players shouldn't be put in that position where they're having to choose.
I know Laurie was looking at Tom Trbojevic, believe it or not, again for that extended squad before Friday night. I mean, Tom was great. I mean, he didn't set the world alight, but we know the well-documented switch from fullback to centre. Did some nice things. He's a class player. He roams. He's a big game player. But Laurie was definitely looking at him. I know he's looking at Campbell Graham. But again, we're talking about two players that are involved in club action this weekend. So Manly and South Sydney respectively, will be happy that Turbo and Stretch aren't there.
Do you know what I don't like, Nico?
What don't you like?
It
What don't you like,
leaves a
Jamie?
sour
Tell me.
taste in my mouth.
To go with your headache. Geez, you're having a hell of a Monday,
yeah,
son.
it's going well. I just don't like the fact that... I don't mean this to come... I know they're not doing it deliberately, but you've got Frank Panisi and Craig Bellamy involved with the Melbourne Storm, who... optics... Mate, they have not made this decision at all to try and benefit the Melbourne Storm, but the optics don't look good. They're the Melbourne Storm in third position. They want to get a top 2 finish. The Bulldogs are in the second spot. I can tell you there are people, the Bulldogs, who are pissed off about it. I don't believe for 1 second that Frank Panisi and Craig Bellamy had anything to do with trying to select Jacob Kiraz to try and benefit the Storm. But the optics of it puts them in a difficult situation. And that's why the 18th man situation needs to be looked at. Because there's a view by some people at the Bulldogs that perhaps picking Jacob Kiraz, it minimises the Bulldogs' chance of beating the Broncos on Friday night, which then helps the Melbourne Storm's chances of finishing in the top 2.
I disagree with that, though, Michael. I mean, Frank and Craig, they're there.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that they've done that. I don't, for 1 second,
because Reece Walsh isn't available as well, and Frank Panisi and Craig Bellamy aren't working for the Maroons coaching staff either.
Yeah, but I'm saying to you, if you change the rule and make the teams pick the 18th man after this weekend's round, then you take away the situation where some people, the Bulldogs, might feel that the Melbourne Storm have tried to manipulate a situation to be advantageous for the club.
Yeah,
I'd be
stunned if Frank Panisi and Craig Bellamy are sitting there going, right, if we pick a Canterbury player this week, if we can get Jacob Kiraz into camp, guess what? We're pulling him away from the Bulldogs. That'd be the last thing on their minds. I'm not speaking for Frank and I'm not speaking for Craig. And trust me, you're going to get a phone call from Frank saying, "How dare you, Michael?"
I'm not,
and he's well within his rights.
But
you're upsetting another person.
You've heard that too, haven't you?
I have, but I think it's completely wide of the mark.
Yeah,
I know for a fact that the Bulldogs, and I know for a fact that the Broncos, they're not happy. They're never going to say it publicly. They do want this rule looked at. Again, as a spectacle, you want your best players in the game. Friday night footy, it's a standalone game. Bulldogs, Broncos at full strength, it'd be an absolute blockbuster. We all know that the Origin players aren't going to be there, but then to take away the star fullback and one of the star wingers, a hometown hero for Canterbury, it waters down that product as well.
What about, like we're talking a little bit about Clubland, this Talon Silva signing, it absolutely, him being released by the Tigers mid-season to join the Eels, which he has now, I can't believe it. It makes absolutely no sense to me the Tigers would release Talon Silva with 18 months on his contract, with Appy out again with concussion, and release one of your rising stars without anything in return, just here. There's the door. When they talked, Richo talked such a big game about we're not going to lose our players, our juniors, we're going to look after our juniors. You got Lockie out the door, you talked a big game there, and now you just let Talon Silva walk. It doesn't make sense to me. What is happening in the background? Why have they done this? Does Mario Tartak, the agent, have something over Shane Richardson? Is there something that we're missing here?
I spoke with Richo on the way in. I asked him this very question with Talon. I know he's off to Parramatta. He had a lot of interest from Manly. It's only ever going to be between Manly and Parramatta. I know we got interviewed by North Queensland, Newcastle as well. But
just leverage.
Family in Sydney. He's a Sydney boy. He's gone to Parramatta. I said to Richo, what's doing? Why couldn't Talon have remained at the club till the end of the year and then happily have seen him later? Let him go to Parramatta then. Because you need a backup hooker. I mean, Appy's out this week. I know it's only 1 week with concussion, but surely Talon would have got some game time.
Well, I was told Talon wanted to stay for 18 months too.
Richo's argument was he was up front with the family. He met with them a couple of weeks ago. He laid out his cards. He said, listen, our priority is Appy Coruscant. We don't want to stand in your way. If we get advanced with Appy Coruscant, we'll sort of keep you in the loop. And, of course, he's done that. They're close to extending Appy Coruscant, the captain of the club. I know he's 12 years Talon's senior, but that's who they hitched their wagon to. Anyway, Richo said to me, with Talon, he's got the chance to play regular football for the rest of this year with Parramatta. And again, it frees up a little bit of money in their cap. Not going to say how much money because that'd be going against Richo's will. But it's in the I know they can't use the money because June 30 today, it's Monday. The cut-off, the transfer deadline's over. But they can use that money, obviously, to front-load a few contracts of current players.
So you've just gibbered for a minute there and it's convinced
I got to the point. I just said to you, Talon, he's doing a good deed by Talon.
1 minute of
he can
play. Convinced they made
he can play regular football with Parramatta instead of playing 20 minutes each week waiting for Appy to come off. Appy's now up to 80-minute player.
Oh, wow.
So Talon's going to get limited football and it frees up a bit more money in the Tigers' cap. They're building. Oh,
so now they're good blokes. Okay, whereas before when they were talking a big game about Lockie, that was a different story.
I get it. I understand. Talon, he's a good player. He's a 20-year-old player. He's going to be a 10-year rugby league player, NRL player. If he can get a chance at Parramatta, why not? Why stand in his way? I'm not saying they're a charity. Richo's done the right thing.
One day. Why stand in his way? Well, hang on, you've lost 6 in a row.
You'd be kicking up more of a stink if you lost Appy, your co-captain.
I'm not saying they've made the wrong decision about Appy Coruscant, Nico.
You're talking about letting him go now. And I've just said to you, he can play. They want him to play regular football at another club, something he wouldn't have got at Tiger Town. And it frees up a little bit more money. Am I speaking Hebrew here?
Get something in return.
What are they going to get in return? I've just said to you,
they got $175,000 out of the Bulldogs.
And who are they going to pay? It's the transfer deadline today.
Okay. Well, you're willing to talk a big game every other time.
I'm not talking a big game. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the club. They're talking a big game about how they're not going to let people go and what they're going to do in the future. And it feels like at the moment, everything they tried to do and avoid being walked all over has happened.
This wasn't on the script. What are they going to do with Adam Dewey? If you're in charge of the West Tigers, when are they going to give Adam Dewey a contract?
Well, they've got to play him in the halves this week.
He was the only glimmer of hope in attack in that second half.
You know what? If I'm Adam Dewey, I think it's time for a change anyway, to be honest.
Don't say that. Don't put ideas in his head.
I know you're a Tiger. He's been there a long time. Maybe it's time for him to have a change.
But he's got versatility. He can fill so many different positions. I love him as a player. I love him as a
I'm a Dragon. I'll take him at the Dragons.
Oh,
if I've got Dewey
you've got bigger issues to worry about.
If it's Dewey Atkinson halves next year, I'll take it. Okay? Anyway. What about next year? We might not be in the podcast after we spoke about getting mastitis and some sort of interesting stat of what was it? The dog breastfeeding the cat.
It was fascinating. You have to watch it.
This has been really
It was
good.
on one of the 12 apps that I pay for mysteriously. It just keeps coming off my credit card every month.
I hate to see what your real algorithm is. Some things popping up on your Instagram I do not want to see. Anyway, Nico, thanks for joining us again on 4020. The next time we speak on this podcast, we'll know he's lifted the shield. We're back then after the game in Sydney for the decider to break it all down. So you enjoy that.
Bye-bye.